you can be cut off of anything at any time. With your bank, with Coinbase, you can be cut off at any time if you're relying on another party that you don't know. So there's a lot of things you can do in your life, and I would focus on where you can start.
Just focus on what you can control, improve, raising the consciousness and awareness. Yeah. Because if you don't, you're going to suffer the hard way. If you don't do those actions, then you deserve what's coming.
Decentralized. Decentralized, got to realize, don't decarbonize. Decentralized, decentralized. 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 Oh, open your eyes.
Welcome to today's episode of Decentralized TV here in the new Battalion studios near Austin, Texas. I'm Mike Adams, and I'm joined today by our co-host, Todd Pittner. Welcome, Todd. Great to have you back.
Cheers. It's awesome, Mike. Always love this time of week with you.
Oh, I love it too. And how's your papayas going there in the food forest?
Man, my wife and I have enjoyed our first two papayas, and they just are, man, it's so good. It's so good. I mean, my goodness, Mike, it's like I didn't know papayas could be so good, first of all.
Yeah, because the grocery store papayas looked like they dragged them out of a dumpster.
Yeah. I was telling my wife, Yana, that. I'm like, from farm to table, that's a big thing in restaurants and stuff. And I'm like, from, farm to our table is about 10 yards,
Right. That's great.
But no, thank you. And we'll probably get into a little bit of food forest talk based upon one of our guests. Well, both of them. My goodness. I can't wait for what is going to be an epic episode, Mike.
Yeah, I can't wait either. And look, we've got so many practical solutions to mention today. I just want to remind our audience to stay tuned for the after party discussion, because I've got questions for you about the Universal Nonprofit Association. I know you're going to be bringing that in after the interview. So I just want to encourage people to stay tuned for that. Now, our guests today are two very special guests. One of them is an expert in digital assets, and the other is an expert in hard assets. And together, I think it's going to be some really cool fireworks. What do you think?
It's going to be amazing. Both of them, we have interviewed each guest prior, and the combination, I think, is just going to be Gucci.
All right, then let's jump right to it. Here we go. All right, here we go, Todd. We're bringing in our two guests. We've got Chris Sullivan and Matt Smith joining us here. I can't imagine two better guests to help us talk about decentralized finance. It's going to be awesome. So welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
It's great to have you both here. And man, Todd, you and I are going to have so many questions. But let me ask our guests to just briefly introduce themselves. Let's just go with that. So Chris, I mean, we've interviewed both of you before separately, but never together. But Chris, give our audience a quick background of what you do.
Sure. REM hedge fund since 2010 as an independent, self-financed asset management firm. And then we went full digital assets in 2017. We operate two hedge funds. And
wow.
I'm a portfolio manager.
Full digital assets. Okay, this is going to be lots of questions for you, given what's going on right now in the markets. And Matt, love your work, love your podcast. We really enjoyed the previous interview with you and your son also. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm a serial entrepreneur, but in 2021, during the COVID hysteria, I moved down to Uruguay and became a rancher in my new life, I guess. And I do a podcast with Doug Casey. If you know him, you should know him if you don't.
Oh, yeah.
And then we publish a newsletter too at crisisinvesting.com.
Okay, and then before we begin, let me ask you both to give out your website. So Matt, what's the best website where people can reach you?
crisisinvesting.com.
Okay, perfect. And what's the title of the book that you just put out again?
The Preparation, the one that I did with Doug and my son.
Yeah, The Preparation, awesome. Very popular interview. We had young girls asking for your son's phone number after that interview. Okay.
He's in a committed relationship.
He's committed? Okay.
Yeah.
We'll put out the word. Chris, how can people reach you?
HyperionDecimus.com.
Hyperion Decimus, Decimus, correct?
Like the former Roman general.
Okay, perfect. All right. So Todd, yes?
That course is epic, by the way. I'm gonna hopefully get my 12-year-old to do that.
Awesome.
Awesome.
It's like a gap year.
Glad to hear it.
And can I do it with him?
A lot of people do. You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Todd, it's all yours. You get to lead off with the questions for our guest today. Go for it.
All right. I've been working on this all day, Mike. And this one goes to you, Chris.
Uh-oh.
We're going to do a little biblical exegesis.
Whoa.
Okay.
Whoa.
Are
Are
you
you
ready?
ready for that?
Yeah. But I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint. So, Chris, how many days are there in a year?
365.
A little bit of a hint. Okay, Chris, biblical exegesis. In the Bible, how many times is it written, thou shalt not fear?
I have no idea. Many?
Just gave you a hint a little bit earlier.
65. Yeah. Sorry, I whiffed on the first pitch. My bad.
365 times it's written in the Bible, thou shalt not fear. Do not fear. So, Chris, if you could edit the Bible today based upon the fear and greed index, would you write thou shalt or thou shalt not fear when it comes to our current correction?
It's always thou shalt not fear, but humans have no capability or capacity to do that with any sort of periodicity.
Well, unpack it. Why not fear? I mean, the VIX index, and it looks scary, man. I mean, what is it? We're in the mid 80s right with Bitcoin.
It looks scary to maybe the masses,
Right.
but they see fear, I see opportunity, and I get fired up when this kind of stuff happens. This is how you set up asymmetric opportunity, and we have a phrase with my whole team, we feast on fear. And I know that sounds maybe mean or predatory, but too bad, tough shit. We're capitalists. So I think it's you got to back away and look at, are we going into a super cycle bear market or not? But in that context, you can't really materialize a lot of significant downside in the short term when you're already at these maximums. But I think to unpack it a little further, we have been pre-programmed in Hegelian dialectic form to associate our happiness, our well-being, our so-called net worth, which is all an illusion anyways, with a number that fluctuates up and down based on whatever fiat we're measuring against. Whereas some smart money investors, they look at the quantity of assets they own, irrespective of their fiat denomination. And that's kind of the mindset shift between sort of the sharks and then the sheep.
So I presume, Chris, that in running your firm, that you have a little stockpile to where you know that you're just going to preserve to be able to swoop in at times like this, right? And can you make it practical for normal people out there who are investing in cryptocurrency? Maybe they've dabbled, maybe they're, knee deep in it, but what is the best strategy to be able to take advantage of times like this, Chris Sullivan?
I think looking at just a couple sets of data points, one being the fear and greed index that you're pointing out, it's basically in its top 5 quartile based on Z-score, which is a standard deviation metric away from the mean. And it's one of the feariest periods in crypto's history. But this is true for all assets. Look at that. Whenever it gets into extremes, that's always a good time to accumulate, regardless of macro, regardless of what's going on broader. Then you have a time horizon that hopefully is infinity, because successful portfolios are designed by generational wealth is to have infinity time horizon. So, and then, you can't trade your way necessarily to wealth, right? But you can do something like I'm recommending that keeps you out of the woods and allows you to build an asset base forever. Lastly, do not use leverage, because then you have the opportunity to do the thing that I'm recommending.
Right.
Yeah, very wise words. Okay, can I jump in with a question for Matt, Todd?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
This will be great. So, Matt, I'm going to ask you about gold and silver. So that's why I invited both of you to the show today, because we want to hear on the digital asset side And we also want to hear about Bitcoin versus privacy coins, Chris. But Matt, we want to talk about gold, the world's oldest money, I suppose. But right now, gold and silver, I mean, silver is still over 50, gold is over 4,000, really holding very high dollar denomination values despite a lot of volatility. And that's diverging from what we're seeing in Bitcoin, which is quite a bit of a pullback right now, and in some stocks as well. So, Matt, can you answer the question for our audience? Why do you think gold and silver are holding up so well?
Well, I think it's because there aren't enough sellers is the simple answer to that. And there aren't enough sellers of gold because people can see what's happening with the dollar and, and actually any fiat currency for that matter. And they would much rather hold on to the gold than they would, because I think most of the buyers of gold in particular versus people who trade stocks do have more what Chris is talking about with this infinite time horizon. Because if you don't need physical, you want physical gold in your possession or, stored somewhere near your possession, fence post 47 or whatever. It's not, by the way, but, you want to, you have a very long-term time horizon because just the act of actually selling it is going to take energy. And so you're not going, it's not something you can come in and out of. So you do naturally have that more infinite time horizon with it, and you're much slower to sell it. But if there is a real serious drawdown in the markets, everything gets correlated at that point. Like they'll sell gold too. And so that's why I think all this volatility we've seen in the markets, it's not serious yet, really, because you will see gold get hit when it gets serious. It'll be temporary. It won't make any difference to me, whatever. I moved a lot to cash about a month ago just because gold and gold stocks had done so well this year. My best year ever. So I couldn't not take cash off the table. And, one last thing about the fear and the greed thing. I think this is so important. My son, actually, since we talked about him earlier, asked me yesterday what I thought about Bitcoin because he has Bitcoin, and he was feeling the fear with it, right? And I said, well, okay. I said, there's two things you got to consider. Number one, pay attention to how you feel, because odds are how you feel is exactly how everyone feels. And, it's like, so if you monitor yourself, that's a best judge of it. You don't have to look at a fear and greed index. You can look at your reaction to the price action and how that makes you feel. If you can pay attention, it's very instructive. It took me too long to learn that, but it is very instructive. And so, obviously, you don't want to be greedy and you don't want to be fearful. Like, those are the two things that'll get you. So if you're aware of it in yourself, you can make better decisions. And if you start to feel really afraid, what I told him is I said, you have to back up and go, is the case that you have for the investment still valid? If it's still valid, ignore it. If it's changed, then you might want to lighten up on your position. Maybe you're feeling this bad because you have leverage or you're overweighted, but this fear greed thing is the whole game, I think, when it comes down to it.
I've got a follow-up question for Chris on this though, but thank you for your explanation there, Matt. That's the perfect segue. So my question is one of the reasons why we're seeing Bitcoin get hit so hard right now is because of the ease of moving in and out of Bitcoin due to the ETFs. So when there's a liquidity crunch, it's easier for people to sell Bitcoin than it is to sell gold, let's say. Chris, do you think there's validity to that observation?
Yeah, and I would kind of reframe it as how can it move like this, right? Because it becomes a mechanical throughput, not so much a subjective narrative, right? So here you can explain the mechanical of how Bitcoin has two really big sell-offs in the last 45 days. One October 10th, that was the largest leverage unwind. The actual number is north of 260 billion. What's been reported, everything reported is not accurate, as you gentlemen all know, but that was the real number. And then in the last kind of few days, you're getting price action that's not really even subdividing. So what that looks like from a pattern and fractal perspective is forced selling. And then you look at what occurred on Wall Street, where this summer, these digital asset treasury equities were listed. Capital was then immediately put into digital assets agnostic to price, and they're being forced out of it right now. So you really have to try and transition your mind to go, oh, well, why is it down? Well, obviously that just means more sellers than buyers. Duh. But more ask questions of how can that manifest? And to your point about gold, and I'm a perma gold bug too. Gold's a pain in the neck to sell physical and try and time it.
Right. You have to physically wrap it up and ship it back and wait for that transit. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a net benefit to gold.
So it just creates more stability in the gold market because people are less likely to want to ship it back and sell it that way. Whereas with Bitcoin, they can just fire off sell orders through the ETFs, right?
Yes. And I think maybe a better way to frame it is because gold has bear markets that are humongous and long also.
Yes.
Right. Like after the 2011 peak, which I love bear markets because then you can just buy all the time for years and accumulate. But, it's got less short-term, what we call realized volatility, much, much less because of the characteristics you just described.
Okay, perfect. Todd?
Chris, does fractional reserve and rehypothecation have any with the ETFs? Does that have anything to do with BTC? Is it really 21 million now, or is it not?
I think it's less than 21 million if we're just looking at the physical itself.
Sure.
Right? Yes, there is more paper than there is Bitcoin, not to the magnitude of silver and gold at this current juncture, but absolutely the derivative tail is wagging the dog in this instance. I'm actually kind of shocked that it's handled it. Like everybody's panicking. It's 87,000, 86,000. I look at that having been in 10 years going, okay, I want all the Bitcoins. But is the Wall Street effect, the fractional effect kicked in? Absolutely. Without a doubt.
Okay. Well, we discovered at the beginning of this that there is going to be a 67th book of the Bible, the book of Sullivan. So I'm taking notes, Chris.
Okay, can I have the next question? Matt, I want to ask you about gold revaluation. This has been there's a lot of speculation about that for a long time, but it looks like Trump is, and Besant in particular, looking at every possible option to try to shore up U.S. Treasuries and maybe pay down some of the debt to decrease the debt to GDP ratio. So in the hopes of maybe lowering, 10-year Treasury rates and things like that. What do you think, Matt? Is there a gold revaluation in the future?
Oh, 100% there's going to be. I don't think there's any doubt about it. The question is, the biggest question, I think the big open question is whether or not they actually fix it to a price or they simply mark to market. And I think it's pretty obvious they're simply going to mark to market, and they'll probably do it a few times on the way up as they continue to destroy the currency.
Wait a minute. So they're going to market to the current market price, which, let's say if it's 4,000, that only generates for them about, I think, $1 trillion in additional liquidity in the general fund of the Treasury, correct?
Yeah, that's right. But the thing is that if they do it higher than that, they have to defend that price.
Right.
So are they actually going to print money and buy gold in the open market at that price? And have credibility, because they risk losing a lot of credibility when you do this. First of all, the fact you're doing it, you're going to lose credibility. But then if you try and fix it to it, and it either is way below or way, if it's way above, it's fine. And they know the gold's going to continue to go up because they're going to continue to print money.
Right.
So they can just follow it on the way up. And you're right, $1 trillion isn't that much. It's an absurd amount of money.
Yeah.
But it isn't that much in the grand scheme of things.
In 2025, it's not that much. Yeah.
Wild. Yes.
About a month.
But it's only going to pay down a small percentage of the debt, right? I mean, a couple percent.
This market volatility is really good for the Treasury 10-year too. It really it pushes rates down. So, this is, in a way, they're trying to, my guess is that they're going to hold off doing mark to market as long as they can, because there's no advantage to doing it. There's going to have consequences that they can't even imagine, when they do it, and market consequences that they might not be able to predict. And, but they do need that cash. And so it will come into play at some point. I mean, I would expect within the next year, I think you'll have a mark to market.
But you are confident that gold will continue trending higher in dollar denomination?
Oh, I'm 100% sure of it. Yeah. I mean, I could be wrong, but in my belief system, I'm 100% sure. It's never been as obvious to me as it's been starting this year when the Trump administration came into office, and it was clear they had aggressive plans in place to change things, whether they would be successful or not, and that they were going to devalue the dollar as part of it. It's a specific plank of the policy. And then you also see the central bank buying the way it is around the world. It's almost as if every government in the world, and this is true at this point, this wasn't true before now, every government in the world benefits from the price of gold going up. because they are the largest holders of gold. So if gold goes up, their balance sheets become better. I mean, if you think about the
Right, but their
gold price
currencies
drops-
look weaker, though, at the same time.
Yeah, that's true. But the fiat currencies are on their way out, and I think they know it's endgame at this point. So I think that's where the script got flipped recently in the last year, where all of a sudden it's like, no, it's better for us not to suppress it. And you see the 2,000 tons roughly of gold that moved into the U.S. in the early part of the year. It's inexplicable.
Right.
There is no private buyer who would have been allowed to do that. The COMEX would have changed its rules. It would
It's
have
got to
stopped
be the
it.
Treasury.
It's the
Okay,
Treasury.
and then Chris, so as Matt just said there, Western currencies are failing, and we're ending the era of these failed fiat currencies. Many people believe that governments are going to move into digital currencies. I mean, that just seems the obvious direction here for at least government currency. Two questions to you, Chris. Number one, do you think that like JP Morgan is going to have its coin and Amazon's going to have its coin and X is going to have its coin? They're all going to be backed by treasuries to shore up the treasury market. That's the first question. And then the second question is, do you think that the government will issue a UBI and use the UBI benefit as a way to force people into something like a CBDC? Or what are your thoughts on that?
JP Morgan already has one.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. Amazon probably. I've not seen any white papers or written plans to make an evidentiary based comment on that, but probably is a fair assessment. And yeah, of course, how I even look at, we're going to get a 2K tariff dividend for below 150 or below 100K incomes, where it was. They said, it's going to come out in 2 weeks. And then no, it's going to be Q2 2026. I think they're actually kind of goading the Fed to lower rates, because the current liquidity picture at the macro level across the planet is end times looking.
Really?
If they don't step up and print like on the come now, then the whole thing goes kaputs. And you're looking at the only way out for these, powers that shouldn't be is the great taking. So
Wow.
whether the administration wants that or not, I can't speak to. Whether it's part of the agenda, I'm not, intimately aware of. But I know that the central banks are not in cahoots with the administration anywhere on the planet, whether it's in UK, Germany, Japan. I mean, look at the yen or the yuan, which they keep printing as well. So I'm just not convinced that what you mentioned about it being kind of a teaser to UBI to then CBDC, that's absolutely what the agenda would be from the central banks, but just not convinced that it would be parcel to what the agenda of the administration is.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Todd, and by the way, Todd, you're looking great. You've been dropping some pounds, it looks like.
I'm down 30, baby. Down 30.
30 pounds? Wow. Congratulations. Yeah. That's awesome.
Thank you. And the last episode we had a chat that I'd completed the 7-day water fast, and it was so cool. I've had several people who were really encouraged about that has taken them to a mental space to where they're like, why not me? I can do it too. So I'm having fun encouraging other people to be able to safely do this. But I just found it pretty life-changing. So, but thank you, Mike. Thank you. And I'm trying to get that vitamin D. I'm trying to follow your lead out there. And I know my neighborhood can never unsee it, but I'm not even, I'm taking my 10,000 steps without a shirt, Mike. And
that's awesome. Well, I jog in a forest on my ranch, and I tell people it's true. I try to get as naked as possible.
Right.
And if a wildlife official stumbles upon my jog, it's going to be a shock. So I saw a white Sasquatch, whatever. Okay.
I have two questions. One for Doug, which is just, what would you and Doug say? Do we even have any gold at Fort Knox, or do you think that's gone?
I think Doug believes we do. But I'll have to update. I'll have to ask him again actually about that, because we haven't talked about that in a while. But I suspect that they have more than they actually say, and I know that this 2,000 tons again that's added. Supposedly it's had 8,000. it's possible that they were repatriating it or getting it on hand because they didn't have enough. That's one thing, one theory. But I think it's more likely that when they do, if they do anything, they're going to want it. They know they know what China has been accumulating, and they know that they've got a lot of it. And when the end game comes with these currencies, I think that the central banks are going to make sure that they have enough in place to basically, a certain percentage of their GDP or whatever. So I suspect they actually have more than people think, really.
Oh, that's encouraging. And Chris, sometimes we talk over people's heads, and I don't want to do that. Can you please unpack what the Great Taking is, just for those who may not be familiar, please?
Yeah, it's essentially it's part to all of these plans that have names like Cloud, Piven, Calvary, etc. I think you can look at Morals and Dogma 1871 by Albert Pike as probably the first teaser on this. But essentially, once 1913 occurred, right, then immediately you have the income tax, World War I, and you set up essentially a plan of 3 world wars. And as these acts were passed, both with the confiscation of gold, 1933, the 34 Act, then you get to 1964, and they begin to dematerialize property rights to securities, right? And from then till 2010 was a step-by-step process, very well described by David Rogers Webb in his book called The Great Taking. That's why I have that moniker for it.
Yep.
Where you don't own anything already, and you don't even know that you don't like it yet.
Right.
Klaus Schwab. So that's already occurred. So that every asset that you hold at your brokerage accounts is held in street name. You don't own the property rights to it. It's totally different than the bearer certificates you had as stocks back in the day.
And this is why we're all such advocates of self-custody. And I'd like to ask you both to talk to our audience about that. And also, by the way, before the Great Taking, there will be the Great Puking, which is the puking of the currency, and everybody losing their minds, like, where did it all go? And then there'll be a giant rug pull of all their assets, and like, oh my God, we're all suddenly impoverished. So how do we prevent that? I'll start with you, Matt. And feel free to go old school on this too, with just stacking metal or whatever is, you and Doug Casey talk about this all the time. What are the best steps that people can take that are practical?
Yeah, well, I should say first, if you read what David Rogers Webb wrote, there is no way to stop the Great Taking if they pull the trigger. I mean, if you have your assets in the stock market, essentially, if you own stocks, and this can be done right now, it can be done tomorrow morning, it can be done 5 years from now, but the wiring is all there. The building is set to implode. Someone's just got to pull the trigger on it. So you just have to, if you own stocks, which I do, you're basically betting they're not going to go nuke on this whole thing. They're not going to blow it all up right now. So that's just for the record. So there's no way to avoid it if you're in the stock market at all. But it does make sense to own physical, tangible things. And I would put Bitcoin in that category. I'm not as familiar with the other cryptocurrencies, but it is something that you can self-custody, that you have possession of. I know it's dematerialized, and but it is something that does exist, that does count in this category. Obviously, I'm a big fan of gold. I think silver is speculative. The problem with silver, physical silver, is that obviously we talked about how hard it was to redeem gold or sell gold if you ever needed cash. That problem is just worse with silver because it's a lot heavier. So, I'm I might trade in silver, but I own physically much more gold by comparison. But I believe in just the things that you need for your life. I mean, one of the best things you can do is, with inflation where it is and knowing they're going to print money, what are the things that you're going to buy in the next year? Buying them today, you're almost guaranteed at least a 10% return on that, potentially a lot higher than that. So if you know you're going to, by spending 10% less over time on those things, while the money's still more valuable today. So that's one of the most obvious no-brainers that everybody can do. Like, what are the household goods that do not spoil, that that you're going to need in the next year? If you've got extra storage room, you should get them in advance. There's no reason not to. Beyond that, I'm into being able to produce my own food, and I know this is limited for some people what they can do. I understand that. But even having a garden, it makes sense. You get actually way better food, and it's in your control, and the prices of tomatoes don't matter to you. So I think these are all things that are totally tangible that people ought to do and are rewarding in and of themselves to do. Like you feel good in doing and planning a garden and self-custodying your own Bitcoin, figuring out how that works and doing that, and certainly owning gold as well.
Yeah, Matt, as food prices go higher, growing your own food becomes more and more lucrative. I'm really glad you pointed that out. And also, Chris, going to you, what Matt just said kind of reminds me of Gresham's law here in a sense, which is that people will try to spend dollars, but accumulate Bitcoin and gold and silver, right? So I don't want to spend my Bitcoin. I don't want to spend my gold, but I want to get rid of these dollars as quickly as possible, right? So Chris, your thoughts on that, and also practical things that people can do for self-custody.
Yeah, Matt's incredibly correct on the do what's in front of you and logical, and take the initial steps, which also cause an immense amount of harmony and peace of mind. Like as a hedge fund manager, what makes hedge fund managers worthy of investing in is most of us that have stayed around managing money for 20 years, we're all contrarian bears and skeptics and risk managers. So you kind of game theory out what is the worst scenario ever known to be in our consciousness, and then work the other way. And to you and Todd's credit, I'll give myself as a perfect example. I have already been a prepper for 15 years plus, already been a gold bug. I was on Wall Street during the financial crisis, saw how fake it was, real time, literally. I can't that's a whole nother series of podcasts. And I got the food forest.
Yeah.
As you had on, they just completed it a few weeks ago.
Nice.
And I now have almost 40 fruit trees. I have potato. I literally have every single category put on 0.4 acres in Florida. I like exactly where my house is, but and that production will start occurring in months. And it's everything from peaches, limes, lemons, oranges, papayas, lychee, like literally everything that can grow. And it's magical. The amount of frequency increase on my property just by this extra life has brought joy to even my dog in just a few weeks. So
that's awesome.
Doing that, having a water source is obviously probably the most important thing. So if you live in an area that you have wells, pay your friend $800 to drill your well, put a tap on it, get a filter, you're good there. And then I think having nat gas and diesel generators on top of potentially some solar, and that way you're covering, okay, the lights are on, I can cook, I have water, and I have food. Then you worry about the money, because money is all an illusion because we say so, right? You got to eat and you got to have water. So I think covering that first is a lot of peace of mind that people can achieve quickly.
100%. Yeah, Todd, go for it.
I self-custody papayas.
Yes.
No, man, and I know the folks who installed your food forest, and they were just awesome. I'm sure you'll agree. And what I always like to tell people is that when you do install a food forest, you are guaranteed to get food immediately. Food for your body in 1 to 2 to 3 years, depending upon the fruit tree or the plant, but food for your soul immediately. And I love that you said that it's even impacting your dog. I mean, think about it. If you're a dog and you have 40 new trees to pee on, that's amazing, guys. So, but I can't wait to get over to where you are, hopefully before the end of the year. I just really want to see it. I'm so intrigued with the design and everything.
Todd, real quick on your papaya. I don't know if you guys know, but there's in Taiwan, there's a very popular street vendor drink of papaya with milk. It's called mu gua niu nai, and it's just papayas and milk. So if you've got cows and you got a food forest, you can make meals. You just blend papaya and milk, and it's actually very, very tasty, very popular.
You can export to Taiwan.
I'm telling you. I tell you, the Chinese have figured out all kinds of ways to eat different kinds of foods. You know, it's a very innovative culture.
Sounds kind of good. I mean, I can envision it in my mind. I might have to try it.
It's good. You should try it. Yeah.
That's great. But seriously, it's just like my wife and I, the last week, we have been consuming these papayas that are coming in, and it's taken a couple of years, but it is just it's a miracle when you think about, okay, prior to that, it was just green poisoned grass, right? The
Right.
Keep Up with the Joneses grass. They ripped all of that out. And what was cool, Chris, hearing you talk about this, is you mentioned a plot of of 0.4 acres. That's nothing, everybody. And mine's like maybe 0.2 in my backyard. So when you think about this, it does not take that much land to be able to have a very, very diverse and productive food forest. Am I right, Chris?
Yeah, we have 8 different lava trees too. I could list them all, but
Yeah.
it's kind of incredible when you have folks that you guys have had on your show that are so talented to
Yes.
structure these, that holy cow, this is way too much even for my entire extended family once it's all firing on all cylinders.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And even though just in 2 weeks our broccoli heads somehow split and it's getting double the production that we thought was going to occur. Yeah, as it came up, it split. And so it's just bulbous and huge. And Cameron came and was like, holy cow, look at that. How did that happen?
Growing hydras, like vegetable hydras.
Now, Matt, a question for you, because you're a rancher. So how do you go about growing cattle?
Well, it depends upon which process you go with. We have bulls just to make sure they did their job last year. We also did some artificial insemination last year too. So it's not as pretty of a process really as maybe planting your gardens were.
I'm sure. And you have, I think you'd shared over 400 head. Is that right?
Yeah, we do because, well, you'd really, a lot of them are cow calf pairs because it's just birthing season now. So, but if you guys would have told me I could have done this on half an acre or whatever, I wouldn't have bought 500. So someone should let me know.
But wait a second, 400 head of cattle, that's a serious operation.
That is.
Yeah, well, Joel Salatin is, is under his way of thinking about that with the mob grazing essentially, where we move them every day. And you can get a lot more carrying capacity of the land, but everyone's like all the Uruguayans here are freaked out by how many animals I have on our land because because it's still a lot. I mean, the average in Uruguay is basically 1 per hectare. So, we're way over that.
Right. But again, you're using what's it called, the concentrated grazing techniques.
The regenerative approach. Yeah. So it's very intense grazing.
Yeah.
For one day.
Did you consult Joel? Did he come out and help, or was it just long distance?
He didn't help at all. However, if I would have paid him, he would have. But I didn't even ask. I read his stuff. I followed his stuff, and then when he was down here, luckily I was able to bring him out to the farm.
Oh, nice!
I guess it was about 1.5 years ago. He was down here for a conference, and I asked him if he'd come over and have lunch, and so he, Doug, and I,
nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, and so I was like, Joel, what do you think? He's like, yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good. And I'm like, any advice? Like, he never wants to be critical, and I'm, because he's just a very generous man.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, just tell me everything wrong. I want some negative feedback from you. It was impossible to get, but he was, he did have a couple tips that were useful.
And Mike, I don't know when you publish this, if you could include a link to Joel's interview that we did, but everybody should go back and let's just talk about this, Mike. Everybody that we interview, because we're not current events based necessarily, they're timeless. The interviews are timeless. So you can go back and watch it, and you'll derive just as much knowledge. And maybe you are the next Matt Smith who watches it and figures out that, hey, I can do this too, and you figure it out. So there you go.
Well, I also want to mention too, Todd, sorry to interrupt, but to our audience watching this, look, here we have the 4 of us together. All 4 of us have very high competency in financial assets, but each of us is also doing personal preparedness and survival type of activities on the side. And this is not a coincidence. This is the point I want to make. These things go hand in hand because it's just like what you said, Chris, earlier. In order to be a wise investor, you have to not trust the system. Because if you don't understand counterparty risk, as Doug Casey also talks about quite a bit, if you don't understand counterparty risk, you are going to lose everything when the system resets. And so, Chris, actually, can you talk about crypto and counterparty risk? Because one of my concerns with a lot of people is that they think they own Bitcoin, but they don't. They own an IOU of Bitcoin. And that's potentially very bad. Talk to us about that, please.
Yeah, it's not a fun dialogue because as someone who came into the space just after the cypherpunks, it kind of fulfilled the majority of what the Austrian model for portable money and the hardest money on earth, right? And now it's turned into a little bit of a trading widget, so to speak, where people, I can just get exposure now instead of actually commit to learning about the technology itself, which is kind of leaving people in the dust at this point. And you guys do a great job trying to keep people up to speed on DeFi, but it is progressing at a pace that is unimaginable, similar to AI in terms of the Metcalfe's law. And I think an ETF, just like with gold, GLD, you don't own the gold. IBIT will pick on BlackRock, which uses Coinbase, will pick on Coinbase. It's not yours. You can't remove it. And more importantly, you don't actually know the real-time ratio of the spot asset itself to the shares. And then more importantly, both GLD and IBIT create redeem shares on a semi-discretionary basis. So, and all kinds of other shenanigans can happen where they borrow more shares than exist to short. That's called naked shorting. Only huge institutions can do that. And then the options then are on top of the ETF, which then market makers can move price depending on supply and demand of spot. So it's got all kinds of opacity for the common investor, where they're just left to go why instead of how, and simply go to an exchange over the counter or a SEX or DEX, get the asset itself, get good at using wallets, get good at using all different types of blockchains, just like you're recommending trying out all different types of AIs, Mike, whether it's Anthropic, Perplexity, or your own, because you've got to become a prompt engineer. You also have to become a DeFi engineer. You also have to become a farmer and an econ expert.
Right.
All of this is all part of the higher consciousness field of people who don't want the system to eat them alive. And I really think if you don't do those actions, then you deserve what's coming.
That's such a critical point. And to Matt, as a follow-up on this, talk to us about the importance of constantly learning. It's just like what Chris said. If you aren't constantly learning, which is one of the things that you advocate in your book with your son, actually even skipping college, which at this point, if I were graduating from high school, I would absolutely skip college. It's a pointless waste of time because you can learn the whole thing so much faster by yourself. But talk to us about the importance of constantly learning and adapting, because things are moving so quickly right now. You could be left behind in 6 months.
Yeah, I think there's if the last few years haven't shown us that the necessity of this, I mean, because things are changing so fast. If you just take AI alone, how much that has evolved, and Mike, I know you're on the front end of that, and I try and experiment and build apps through it myself. It's actually fascinating. It's amazing how they improve. And but I'm not doing it out of necessity, that in particular. I'm doing that for the better reason, which is actually that's where the satisfaction in life comes from, is growing. And if you're not learning, then you're probably shrinking, right? Because you have to be expansive in what you do, I think, in order to find a level of fulfillment and happiness. And learning is the key to doing that, I think. Yeah. But the necessity is going to become a real issue for people at some point, where everybody's going to learn a lot more in the near future, because just the environment's going to require it of them.
Todd, think about this, I think one of the things that we demonstrate here on the show, not to pat our own backs, but at any age, you can learn. You can always learn. And even physiologically, your hippocampus is always making new neurons every day, and you can retrain the neurons you have if you haven't drowned them in vodka or whatever. You can retrain them. And so learning is a constant thing, Todd. I mean, ask whatever question you want here, but you might want to comment on that what we demonstrate is there's no time in your life where you should ever stop becoming a more informed person.
Well, I want to touch on two things. One is when I was 55, I'm 61 now, but when I was 55, I could spell Bitcoin, and that was about it. And it just hit me that I needed to figure this crypto thing out. And so somebody had messaged me and said, "Hey, Todd, you need to buy XRP." And I'm like, "What's XRP?" And they're like, "Crypto." And at that point in time, I'd gotten it was December and I mean, January, and I'd gotten a bonus check. And so I put it all down I mean, the whole thing on XRP because I was a pretty smart guy. And I did it through Coinbase. I figured out what Coinbase was. And then the next week, they delisted XRP. Now, the good news is that did force me to learn about self-custody, and I was able to still get it off into self-custody, and it ended up having a happy story because it rebounded. I got it at 18 cents and it went up to 50 cents and I sold it at 50 cents. So I did pretty good and I thought I was pretty smart. But that, Mike, is when I started my YouTube channel covering crypto, which was I'm just a regular dude who wants to learn, and I invite everybody to follow my journey. And Mike, that's where you learned about me, right? About 3 years into that.
That's right.
I was covering private crypto, and you liked kind of how it was going and how I treated people and such. So that was one, but I was 55. And you think about that. It's like I could have gone the way of most and just not challenge myself, but I knew I had to figure it out. That's one. Two, I met this guy, Mike Adams. You guys may know him, right? And he has had such an influence on my life, and lately, specifically related to AI. And Mike, I just want to thank you. I am so grateful because you have been my guide, my mentor on helping others keep more of what they earn, because I have about 100 pages of content on these unincorporated nonprofit associations. And I wanted to get your feedback on how to ingest that into Enoch so that, unlike most people's Lord and Savior ChatGPT, that if you search Enoch, you actually are going to get the truth related to this entity. And then you trained me this last week on this amazing prompt. And it really solidified, Mike, how it is so important for us to become prompt engineers. And yes. Chris, you touched on that, right? So thank you, Mike. But the message is we have the capacity to keep learning. And I'm just grateful, man.
Well, I'm thrilled to be able to be on this journey with you, Todd, and for both of our guests too. And in fact, let me mention one thing that's coming up that we're about to launch. And then I'm going to ask Matt for your reaction to this, because you live in South America, you need to practice a lot of self-reliance. We're about to launch Brighteon Books, which allows you to generate a book on any topic completely free of charge. A book that our AI engine writes, edits, researches, fact checks, puts in the citations, builds the cover art, all automatically, packages it as a PDF and sends it to you completely free. So from here forward, anywhere you are in the world, you can have it generate a book on anything you need to learn or master, from ranching to building fences to water catchment to anything.
Amazing.
Matt, not just on our project, but what do you think this means in terms of the decentralization of knowledge and being able to live in a more self-reliant manner all over the world?
I think that's a great idea. Actually, as we were talking about this and talking about learning and talking about AI, I was thinking, well, one of the great things about AI is if you feel dumb asking questions, well, you don't have to feel dumb asking the AI. And you can go really deep. And I have had some of the most intellectually stimulating conversations of my life with AI, actually, because you're able to take it down directions where no person would have that knowledge. And
is that with AI or your AI girlfriend?
Yeah, with AI. That's actually with AI.
Oh, okay.
My real life wife would not be happy with my AI girlfriend.
Okay.
Should she? But I think the idea, the book element is a really intelligent way to go about it, because the truth is most people don't know what questions to ask. So they wouldn't know, they might not be able to follow their curiosity down a rewarding learning path for them. But if you have people intelligently prompt into existence AI generated books, it could walk them through the process. It could be a much more effective way for most people to consume it.
It's really cool because you can just say, write a book about how I build fences for goats. That's it. And then it builds a table of contents for you. You can approve the table of contents and then it writes it all out step by step. But you're right. What you said there, Matt, sometimes people don't know what question to ask. You just know you need to learn something about this area. Like Todd, you could even say, like, write a book about how do I practice self-custody with private crypto. I don't know anything about it. A beginner's guide, you know?
No, that's beautiful. And then I think the evolution of that is going to be, and you've touched upon this before, Mike, is imagine you going into the next evolution of the AI engine and writing a prompt basically saying, create a 2-hour movie for me to enjoy this weekend with this theme, but give me a surprise ending, right? That's
right.
going to be there one day.
Oh, we're not that far away from that. And I know, Chris, you will appreciate this being in the digital assets realm, but I believe that almost all the content that we're going to ingest digitally in the years ahead will be content that we ask for. Hollywood's obsolete. The entire education system is totally obsolete, as you know, Matt, especially with the book that you just produced. But the education system is obsolete because who's got time to go through that? It's going to be you ask for what you want, and probably my question to you, Chris, is going to be you'll pay for it with digital assets. It'll be like tokens for tokens. So crypto tokens for AI tokens to generate what you want. Doesn't that make sense? Like crypto is perfect for the AI economy, don't you think, Chris?
Yeah, it's a natural pair. But let me correct you. It's the indoctrination system, not the education system.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah, I mean, there's already my 12-year-old. This is going back. I think it was DeFi Summer 21. I specifically bought a few gaming tokens so that he could use them and learn all about hot wallets. And he definitely literally lost some. And it was Mana, which was decentralized. It was a few, I can't remember the names. Obviously, they all went down whatever percent, but to the point of there being exchanges occurring just in tokenized whatever across infinity platforms, that is already occurring, and it is the future because the bank's stranglehold on liquidity is coming to an end. The jig is up. Most wealthy folks already know that. In fact, actually, the last 45 days, my firm and then people who have been waiting to buy Bitcoin, it's the most money moving into the space I've ever seen.
Wow.
Really? Mm-hmm. Oh, and I really want to ask you before we finish up here, we're almost out of time, but it seems to me like many of the privacy coins are handling this correction much better than Bitcoin itself. You want to speak to that difference?
Yeah, Matt actually made the point with gold. There's just no sellers, right? And with Monero, Zcash is not all the way there, but then they created the DAT for it by the Winklevoss twins who own Gemini Exchange. And because there was so little liquidity on Zcash, it literally did a upside crash because crashes go both directions. There were very little to no market making firms that were making on the token. And you could just look up in the order book, well, shit, all this money flow, it's literally going to crash upwards, goes up 400%, I think in 65 days or something like that. And these are fully diluted tokens, which that alone is a characteristic that separates basically any legitimate project from not a legitimate project. If it's fully diluted and actually has some tangible use cases, then there's probably a healthy price discovery market for it, maybe worthy of looking into an investment. But there's very few privacy tokens, and that's going to come up more out of Asia and Europe than it is in America, because Americans take everything for granted. We have the most dynamic, robust capital markets on earth. People take for granted that you can even invest, right? Most of the countries on earth, you don't even have capital to invest in anything, let alone choose from nearly infinity sectors, options, vehicles, firms, funds, people, et cetera. And I think that needs to be understood and go more towards the direction of, hey, the apparatus that did this to Europe is now our turn, right? And so privacy tokens and self-custody, and then recognizing what we do have as Americans, all is part and parcel to raising your consciousness and awareness. Yeah. Because if you don't, you're going to suffer the hard way.
Well, I think that's the theme of this whole show is you need to be aware, you need to be informed, you need to constantly learn if you hope to survive any of this that we're about to go into, which I think is going to be the most chaotic time of our lifetimes in terms of finances. So we're going to wrap this up. Matt, any final thoughts, and then also give out your website again where people can find your work.
Sure. I'll just say I love the conversation. I hadn't met Chris before. Chris, it was great to meet you. Love the knowledge you've got. I have a lot to learn from you, no doubt about it. But I think that the big focus for me would just be for people to look in their real life, the things that they can actually do to improve their lot, to make themselves less reliant on the system. And when you think about it, we're very desperately tied to systems. And yes, it's during COVID, it was clear, but people have forgotten all of that already for some reason. And but you can be cut off of anything at any time. With your bank, with Coinbase, I got kicked out of Coinbase. They closed my account, forced me to liquidate in fiat, would not let me transfer my Bitcoin out.
Wow.
So you can be cut off at any time by if you're relying on another party that you don't know. Like if it's not a person on the other side, you're in real trouble if you haven't taken control over these things yourself. So there's a lot of things you can do in your life, and I would focus on where you can start. And if that's just having some more preps or whatever, buying in advance the supplies you need, or figuring out these pretty exotic tokens that Chris knows about.
By the way, the gold that I have buried, the dirt has never forced me to liquidate it. So that's interesting. It seems secure. Chris, your final thoughts and how people can reach you.
Yeah, this is such a gift and a pleasure, gentlemen. And Matt, that book's phenomenal. The course, I was like, this is exactly what I want my son to do, and I want to do it with him. I wasn't kidding. So the work you do is very amazing, Mike and Todd. You're second to none. The volume of information you all have brought forward in the last 24 months is mother effing heroic. So good on
Thank you.
And I would just despite all of this darkness and overlords, we still have it better than any other generation at any other time in any other point in history. And all we need to do are these few things, like Matt said, just focus on what you can control, improve, and go to preppingwithmike.com and learn more about prepping.
Prep. It's prep with Mike. Just a short version. But thank you for the plug. I appreciate that. But that's actually outdated. I would say to people, go to Brighteon.ai, use all our AI tools, build your own digital library for free of everything you ever want to know. Download it, put it on a thumb drive, and you're set, man. You're set. But thank you both for joining us today. It's been a real delight, just a fascinating conversation. We appreciate both of you and what you contribute to the world with your wisdom. And I really encourage our audience to follow your work, follow your websites. They will learn a lot from you. So thank you so much for joining us. And then Todd, you and I will be back after this short break with the after party. But thank you all for this segment. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Join the official discussion channel for this show on Telegram at t.me/decentralizedtv, where you can ask questions or offer suggestions of who we should interview next. Also be sure to subscribe to the email newsletter on decentralized.tv, where you'll be alerted about 1 day in advance of each new upcoming episode, before it gets published. On decentralized.tv, you'll also find links to our video channels and social media channels across all platforms, including Brighteon, Rumble, BitChute, Twitter, Truth Social, and more. Check it all out at decentralized.tv. All right, welcome back. This is the after party of today's episode here on decentralized.tv. Well, Todd, hey, did you have fun? I mean, yeah, great guess, huh?
Unbelievable. I knew it from the beginning that this was just going to be synergistic and magic. And I think this is going to be an extremely popular episode with these two.
I think so too. And what's funny, our audience probably doesn't know this, but we had some last minute schedule changes and I invited both of those guys just yesterday. and they were both just so courteous to rearrange their schedules and say, yes, I'll come on and join you. So, wow.
Yeah, it's just amazing. What is it they say? Fortuitous. Mike?
Absolutely. I didn't think we could get both of them on at the same time, but we did. And the chemistry really worked great.
Oh my gosh, they had never met before.
Right.
But after people, have watched this episode, if you're watching the after party right now, then you've witnessed it. They should do a show together. I mean, they're awesome.
Yes.
Digital with meat. There's just something about that I think is perfect.
Yeah, and I think we covered so many practical solutions today.
Yeah.
Of course, I want you and I to kind of summarize and extend on those solutions for people as well. But I hope the takeaway from people today is that if you don't take actions for self-custody, no matter what asset we're talking about, you're probably going to lose everything whenever the next financial crisis or the great taking takes place. Is that right? Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely. And, let's think about it. Just because I really want to kind of complement what Chris was saying about fear, Mike. What is BTC's high? Was it 115 or something like that?
115 in the last few months, I think. Yeah.
And now it's 87.
I'm looking at the chart. It's 87.
But if you go back to the beginning of Bitcoin, beginning of time for Bitcoin, and you take a look at how many times people have made the horrendous mistake of fear, right? We talked about the biblical exegesis, do not fear 365 times in the Bible, Mike. But fear is what makes people poor, right? This is just a 25% pullback. And I say just, seems like a lot, but go ahead and look at the charts and look at how many times that there have been pullbacks that have been 80%, Mike.
Oh, yeah.
And look where BTC is right now. So I just think that there's a lot to be learned about expressing a little bit of patience and not giving a crap about the volatility, hodl, if you will. But I like Chris said, I mean, this is a great time if you have some dry powder, right? That is the thing that I think people should really pay attention to. If you are in cryptocurrency, you always want to maintain some dry powder. So when there are these pullbacks, all of a sudden you can lower your basis, you can improve your profitability on these by getting these digital assets while everyone else is getting out. That's the best time to buy.
Yeah,
right, Mike?
And well, that's true. But I also want to say that I'm really noticing that the privacy crypto coins really have done much better through these recent weeks. And I think this is actually a big trend. I think as the governments are looking at more surveillance of Bitcoin, and it's on the agenda here in the United States at the federal level to have the Treasury and the IRS monitor Americans' overseas Bitcoin assets. And since Bitcoin has zero privacy, that's easy for them to do. So I'm seeing, at least I think I'm seeing, this is why I asked Chris the question, I think a lot of people are actually selling Bitcoin and buying Monero or other privacy coins. And that's why they have done so well. But yeah, your thoughts, Todd.
Yeah, I think the issue with a lot of the private crypto is the liquidity, right? It's just hard to be able to acquire them. And so you have to really make a concerted effort to self-educate. And I really encourage people to do that, to be able to research private cryptocurrencies and actually go and take a look at them to see if it might be for you to know that even putting your toe in the water a little bit and acquiring some is going to diversify your risk, right? Because there's going to be a point in time to where the name of the game is going to be exchanging value privately. If you cannot do that, anybody, the Druid Babylonian bastards, can turn off the spigot at any point in time. One thing I didn't talk to Chris about, and I wanted to, is how concerned he is with this great taking, et cetera. Currently, to be able to acquire any cryptocurrency, Mike, you need to be able to on-ramp fiat through these exchanges, right? So at what point in time are the banks going to, that we have to ask permission from them? and get permission from them, even to on-ramp crypto. So I think now is the time that if people are going to get serious about private cryptocurrency, you need to do it before they don't allow us to, Mike.
I completely agree. And I would add to that I think privacy crypto now represents the original vision of Satoshi that Bitcoin
Amen.
was supposed to be.
Amen.
Whereas Bitcoin has become so institutionalized and even government approved.
Right.
I don't really want to use any crypto that's government approved because that, to me, that's a red flag. I want to stay outside the mainstream establishment where I want to stay in the privacy crypto realm, that ecosystem personally. That's just my personal choice.
Absolutely.
And when Bitcoin launched ETFs and it became an institutionalized investment, that's when a lot of red flags went up for me. And I didn't want to hold Bitcoin at that point. Although I know a lot of people do. Some people say it's going to go to $1 million. That's fine. I mean, there are many different takes on this. But to me, it's way too institutionalized. It's not private. And it's highly, highly, at this point, it's too easy for people to get into it who don't know anything about crypto.
Absolutely. And we discussed it a little bit during the interview, but this fractional reserve, rehypothecation,
yes,
people should self-educate and go to Enoch,
Brighteon.ai. Let me just...
Brighteon.ai, and ask, what is fractional reserve? What is rehypothecation? So with regard to Bitcoin, they say the tokenomics are 21 million that are out there, and there will only be 21 million. Not so. With rehypothecation and the fractional reserve that's going on, as I understand it, the actual supply is closer to 60 million. So I think that that's important for people to understand. And frankly, Mike, I just think if I'm up in BTC right now is the time where I want to be able to exchange some of that value and actually get into private crypto. So I know that you and I are really excited about an upcoming guest that we're going to interview with Ashton with Crypto Coin Show, but we're going to have a founder of an amazing wallet this founder is so libertarian at heart and is on our side. And we're going to be able to talk about privacy crypto ad nauseum. I can't wait, Mike.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And hey, this is a good time for me to tell the audience sort of some of what we have coming up for 2026 also. It's not going to be just crypto, by the way. We're going to have interviews with pioneers in robotics, in AI, and we're also scheduling right now a decentralized food chef expert who teaches, you're going to love this guy. He's, I don't want to say who it is, but you're going to love him. And he follows exactly what we've been saying for so long, but he's a generation younger, and he teaches getting out of the medical system and reducing reliance on pharmaceuticals by making food your medicine, and he's a chef. So he's got the best recipes for turning food into spectacular medicine. So that's coming up also.
Wow. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
2026 is going to be a great year for this show. It'll be our best year ever, and that's going to be our third year. Is that right, Todd?
Our third year. It's crazy,
really?
Mike. Unbelievable.
Oh my goodness. At this rate, you're going to be flooded with papayas as the season continues.
Right. And my wife yesterday, because you know me and my affinity towards raccoons, right?
Yes.
And she accused me of engaging in Operation Daniel Boone. and so I thought about that, and I'm like, well, you know what? I take care of them now. And when things really hit the fan, all I have to do is, watch Daniel Vitalis, our interview with him, and, maybe figure out how to be able to take a little back from the little guys and be able to keep my head warm.
What? Are you saying that you might eat one of the raccoons?
Oh, I will now. You know me. I will never.
Yeah, I don't think you would do that.
I'd never do that. I love those little guys, but
Yeah.
yeah, they are now getting a little bit maybe too bold, coming into my garage.
Coming in your garage. What are they, trick or treating? What the heck?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Do they ring
It's
your
like,
doorbell?
I'm back there. I'm in there feeding them, and they're like, "Okay, it's 4:00, 4:30. I know it's dinner time," and so they just decide they're going to meet me more than halfway.
Well, you know it's getting out of control when the next time they show up and they plop down some documents that are a peace accord with their demands.
Yeah, right. If you do not sign this, that food forest is ours.
No, they'll be like, we got the Donbass region and your backyard.
Right, exactly.
We're taking it all. And your papaya trees. We can wreck your papaya trees unless you feed us the following.
Man, papayas are good.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never enjoyed them like I have recently. It's just like they're magic. So
yeah, they are.
So cool that Chris Sullivan, installed a food forest, and I just everybody, you don't have to worry about your homeowners association at all, because we are allowed to be able to install food forests. I mean, we just are. It's a permaculture food forest, and so don't worry about it. And if you are worried about it, you can figure out how to reach out to me. And I can send you a letter that I used to beat back our HOA.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
Beautifully.
That's a great idea. Okay. All right. So then on that issue of the HOA and your home and protecting your home, I wanted to bring up your the topic that you have on every show, the UNAs. But I want to ask you specifically about this. Now, this is a nonprofit, an unincorporated nonprofit association.
Yeah.
You and your partner offer these instruments.
Yep.
At a fee that is actually very small compared to the savings in the first year.
Absolutely.
But what's the process by which a person puts their home into this UNA and then maintains control without ownership or liability?
First of all, you go to my575e.com and you go through the educational process of learning about the entity and all of the positive attributes associated with it. Once you do that, if you still have any questions, then what most people do, Mike, who ultimately end up getting a UNA, is they just book a one-on-one consultation with me, and then we can talk about their personal situation in great detail, and I can explore use cases that would be a worthy investment. And that is $150, but as you know, and I've shared, people get that back if they move forward with the UNA. The only reason why I charge that at all is when I didn't, people don't show up. So that remedied that. But, most people, seriously, Mike, who have a one-on-one with me, move forward with the UNA.
Okay, so suppose they get the UNA, then how do they actually transfer a home to the UNA without experiencing like sales taxes or profits on the home?
Yeah, because the Garn-St. Germain Act allows you to, for financial planning purposes, be able to donate your home to an unincorporated nonprofit association, charitable organization. It's recognized by the IRS as such, and you control it. You just don't own it. And you can do that through a quitclaim deed. And we have a private Telegram group, Mike, that has, over 350 people in it right now. And within that, we have an encrypted, we call it our UNA Biz directory. And in there, when you're at that point to where you are ready to donate your property, you just go to the donating properties chapter, if you will, and it'll unpack all of the relevant information, including templates and how-tos and even resources who are in there. I mean, personal resources whom you could choose to help guide you. Amazing, amazing people in there. And it is done through a quitclaim deed that is recorded at your county after it's notarized. And then boom. Yep.
Okay, and the reason I'm asking is because I've actually had a person ask me these questions.
Sure.
they want to get a UNA with you and transfer their home into the UNA. But I couldn't answer the questions. I didn't know the process. But after this deed is notarized, then what? They just take it down to the county clerk's office and have it recorded?
Well, spirit of full disclosure, I'll tell you what most people in the group do who have donated their property. And there's a woman in there who used to be a county recorder for years and years and years. And she is a lovely woman who is very, very helpful. And so she will help people do this so you don't screw it up. All the way from the beginning to getting it properly recorded. And she literally charges a small fee that's almost ridiculous, Mike. She and I mean, she's wonderful.
Cool.
Betsy.
Okay.
Betsy, we love you. You are, you are
Okay.
amazing.
And then the other key benefit of this is just for people watching, at least I know this much about it, is that you then maintain control over the unincorporated nonprofit association, but you have no legal ownership, which means you have no liability.
That's correct.
As a
That's
person.
correct. So if somebody sued you, or if you had to, heaven forbid, file bankruptcy, it's not a personal asset that you have to declare. Or at the point in time, if you sell it, those proceeds from the sale of the home go into the UNA as proceeds that are considered reserves or unsettled funds. And there's no capital gains taxes on those. So that is a big deal. And then you have time to determine what you are going to do with it per your articles of association. But, Mike, here's a fact. Here's a fact. Bill and Melinda, the Rockefellers, they don't donate their fortunes to their foundations because they're benevolent. They do it because they're able to avoid tax liability. They're able to pass it down generationally without any kind of consequence, without probate, et cetera. And we've talked about this before, Mike, but I think it's really important for all of us to be able to donate our homes because, if you're a senior, especially, the IRS, if you ever have to get put into elder care or whatever, they're very good at being able to take your assets, and they'll put a lien on your home so fast you can't even see straight to be able to pay Medicaid.
The inflation makes the whole thing a scam because people's homes become more and more valuable. And then they sell a home, maybe after they've lived in it for 20 years, let's say, and it's way more valuable in dollars now. So then they have a massive tax burden.
Yes.
But after taxes and after dollar devaluation, they're no more ahead than they were when they bought the house.
No.
It's the taxation of the gain, but the gain is artificial because of inflation. So it's a giant ripoff.
Taxation is theft, Mike.
Taxation is exactly.
Yeah.
So,
I just want to share right now, Mike, because we're talking about it being November, and I just sent an email this morning. What is it, the 18th or 19th? But if you go to my575e.com and you put in your email address and name to be able to get to the training video and such, that puts you on my list to where about every other week I send out a very, very informative email to you. And I just sent one out this morning, Mike, to educate people that if you are a W-2 earner, 1099 earner, if you have Social Security, if you ultimately are filing taxes and you have what's called adjustable gross income, I sent out an email to educate people that this is, and excuse me for being crass, but sometimes this is just how I communicate. Your AGI is an unflushable turd. It's not going away. But there are strategies yet this year, before the end of the year, you have until the last week of December to be able to make a huge strategic move to be able to lower your basis, your tax basis, by up to 60%, Mike. So I really encourage people at least go to the website and watch that 90-minute video, download the PDF, and I can even send this PDF that you helped me with, Mike, this last week, that is a 5-page PDF that really unpacks not just what a UNA is, but all of the case law, constitutional law, and tax law associated with it.
Wow. Okay. And also, our AI engine now is trained on all of your material that you provided. So
Awesome. Is it ingested already?
well, not the second part, just the first
Okay.
part, but the second part's going to be very soon, within, I don't know, a week or so.
Beautiful.
But you'll be able to go to our AI engines at brighteon.ai, and you can click on the AI engine there. It's free. And then you'll be able to ask it about UNAs and get much better answers. And not 100% great, but on the way to that. So anyway, the website, Todd's website, folks, is my575e.com. Now, I've got something to announce, to share, that I can finally say.
All right.
And this is sort of my sponsor on this, which is Battalion Metals. And you can get there at metalswithmike.com. It takes you to Battalion Metals. And, you know, I've interviewed the founder many times. I've worked with his family for many, many years. And they launched this new rendition called Battalion Metals, you know, maybe earlier this year. I can now reveal that the co-founder of Battalion Metals is Tucker Carlson.
Wow.
Yeah, so here's his picture. Here he is. And I couldn't say that for a long time, but I love Tucker Carlson. I think he's the most honest, high-integrity journalist in America today, or among the best. Yeah. And he, you know, Tucker has gone into business with our friends in the gold business to launch Battalion Metals. So high integrity, no shenanigans, no bait and switch, you know, no nonsense, right? So if you want physical gold and silver, this is a great place to get it with really competitive pricing. And again, just go to metalswithmike.com. And Tucker Carlson has put his reputation behind this company.
That's awesome. Mike, can you just educate people on the process that, like, let's say that I wanted to buy, you know, $1,000 worth of gold or $5,000 worth of gold. What's the process?
Well, it's very simple. You just go to metalswithmike.com. You can either shop online at Battalion Metals, or you can make an appointment to talk to some of their advisors who will help you sort of customize a solution for your goals, whatever your priorities. They're not pushy. They're not arm twisters at all. They're just helping you think through the process.
Yeah.
You can also use our AI engine to ask questions, by the way, about gold and silver, risk, self-custody, all kinds of things. Anyway, then you just place an order. And if it's typically, people are going to send a wire, a bank wire, because the purchases tend to, you know, 5,000 is actually on the low side.
Yeah, sure.
You know, people are buying a lot more. And then you can either have it vaulted with them, with their Lloyd's of London insured high security vaults, if you don't want to take custody. But I encourage you to take custody as long as you can safely store it and secure it. And then they'll ship it to you, and it's insured, it's discreet, it's confirmed delivery. You're going to get your gold or your silver in your hands. You know, open it up, count them out, make sure it's all correct, which it is, because it's been triple checked on their side. And then, you know, find a way to hide it somewhere, you know. Like,
so what do you say to people who are concerned about, wow, if I have it shipped and, you know, I'm not home and they leave it or whatever, it's you know, what if somebody steals it?
No. They're not just going to drop it off in your yard. I mean, it's insured, secured, signature delivery. It's guaranteed.
Beautiful.
It's a guaranteed delivery. Yeah. You're gonna get it.
Yep.
And if you don't get it, it doesn't cost you anything, you know? I mean, that's an issue with the carrier, but every shipment is insured with the carrier.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's no concern there.
St. Lloyd's is your carrier.
Well, and also finally, if you buy a lot of gold and silver, and if you have it stored somewhere, you really want to put it in a UNA, just for the same reason of putting a house in a UNA.
I was going to share with you, there are a lot of people that are not only having personal accounts with these, you know, gold storage facilities, but they're getting them set up with their UNA as well.
That makes sense.
And they are keeping more of what they earn by donating their adjustable gross income to the UNA, and that tax savings, then they are, through the EIN of the UNA, be able to acquire gold, take self-custody, and now at the point in time, if they ever had to take any chips off the table, then the 1099 or whatever would go to the EIN number. And there are some really positive things that happen when happens when that's done. I'll save that for some consultations.
Yeah, positive things involving digits. Yes. Okay. So that's great to know. All right. So anyway, those are some of our solutions and also some of our sponsors for the show, folks. And we thank you for your support and want to encourage you to check out the other episodes that we've posted, all on decentralized.tv. And then again, get ready for, we've got a couple more episodes this year here through the end of 2025, but then next year, 2026 is going to be also really packed with some amazing guests.
And by the way, Mike, so I really encourage people to go to decentralized.tv and go to our October 7th episode. That's the rise of the Renaissance Man, and that's with Matt Smith, who we interviewed today, and his son Maxim. And you heard Chris Sullivan talk about how that interview really impacted his life, because now he is wanting his young son, to be able to go through what Maxim has gone through. And it's just crazy, Mike, how the synergies of our show is creating these experiences and this cross-pollination that if you out there have, a young son or daughter or whatever, watch that show. And it's not just the Renaissance Man, but it can be woman as well. My daughter is I'm really excited about having the conversation with her. I got the book, Mike, and
that's awesome.
It's back. Yep.
Hey, by the way, Todd, I know you're very proficient in magic. Did you see the new prop here? I have a floating light bulb.
I didn't.
I don't know if we can we get a close-up shot of that? But this is a floating, okay, yeah, we're going to zoom in on that. It's a floating light bulb. I bought it online. Oops, I just hit the power, but it's actually floating because of magnets, right? So it's hovering above the base. There it is. Check it out.
That's cool.
What do you think?
That is really cool.
Yeah, and you can, it really is floating. Like, here, let's see if I can pass the glasses underneath it. You ready?
Yep.
Da da da.
Wow.
Da da da. And I'm not doing the trick that the magicians use with that thing, with the floating woman on stage. This is actually floating. So, it's just.
That's how they built the pyramids. Now
yeah, I know. Right. Levitation, mind over matter. No, it's just probably some neodymium magnets from China, I think, is what that is. But this reminds us of the rare earth minerals and the importance of rare earths in America's industrial base.
Yeah.
Because, you're going to need to make either floating light bulbs or cars and robots, one or the other, with the rare earths. Yeah. So
amazing.
Hey, we're just having fun here, Can't wait for you to join us, Todd. When are you going to come to Texas?
Well, I'm maybe out there the end of December.
Really?
It kind of depends on our guest that if we can pull that off. You know who?
Okay.
The bearded wonder. So I'm hoping
that woman. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, that woman. Yeah. She's got legs.
No, I don't. You'll have to tell me who you're talking about, the bearded wonder. But I'm wondering who is the bearded one. But I can't wait for you to be out here because
I know
you haven't been to our new studio yet.
Yeah, if it is not the end of in between Christmas and New Year's, it's going to definitely be sometime in January.
Okay, all right, all good. We can't wait to see you here. And is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up today's show?
Nope. Just want to express my gratitude for the folks watching. Man,
okay.
we couldn't do it without them.
Absolutely.
And I just love our viewing audience.
They're awesome. We really appreciate all of you who are watching and sharing this show. Because remember, I'm permanently banned on YouTube. And it's funny because I have a lot of friends who were banned by YouTube, and YouTube is sort of reactivating many of their accounts. So about once a week, I'll have a friend text me and say, "Hey, YouTube turned my account back on. Did they turn your account back on?" And I'm like, no, that's never going to happen. I am the most perma-banned person on YouTube in the history of YouTube.
You are.
So the only place you can find us is on Brighteon.com or Rumble or the other alternative video platforms.
That's
Never
right.
YouTube.
Nope.
Yeah. Even if they turned it back on, I still wouldn't post this episode on YouTube anyway, because we don't want to support Google's ecosystem with this great content.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's
And
like, no.
it'll take 10 seconds for them to issue 3 community strikes because we're talking about, papayas.
Yeah, right.
Papayas in our
About
backyard.
growing your own food. It could be
Right.
harmful to society, whatever
right.
they say. Their terms of service. You can't offer any advice that helps humanity.
Yes, it's true.
That's it. That's the YouTube system. All right. Well, thank you, Todd. It's been a pleasure. We've had a lot of fun today, and I'll see you again next time.
All right. And Chris and Matt, thank you. You guys were awesome.
Yeah, they were awesome. All right. Thank all of you for watching. It's just been a pleasure. Thank you for all your support. And be sure to check out our other episodes at decentralized.tv. And we'll be back next time with another great guest. Take care.
Cheers.
We've got turmeric root powder back in stock at healthrangerstore.com. And the reason you want to get turmeric root powder from us is because, of course, turmeric is very frequently contaminated with lead. But we do all of our own testing. We've got an ISO accredited laboratory with multiple mass spec instruments, and we test for lead and mercury, arsenic, and cadmium as well, plus glyphosate. And for some of our products, we test for atrazine. For everything, including turmeric, we test for E. coli, salmonella. We test for yeast and mold, total plate count, and listeria, and many other things. So we test in-house to make sure that you get the cleanest foods and superfoods, nutritional supplements, and personal care products imaginable. And that's why people love us, and thank you for all your support. But go to our website. Here it is, healthrangerstore.com. And right here, you can just search for turmeric. Or you can shop any of the other categories that we have and some of our sales and so on. But here's our turmeric root powder. It's back in stock right now. This is something that's very difficult for us to keep in stock. And of course, it's organic and it's lab tested on top of that. But we also have, and I'm showing it on my desk, we also have the turmeric tinctures available. We have our regular tincture and then our plus version, which has black pepper and ginger in it as well. And these products are incredibly popular. They're very delicious. People love them. And also they are lab tested like our turmeric powder. So if you want to learn about turmeric and why it's so beneficial, you can go to, any AI engine or use our AI, which is trained on nutrition. That's at brighteon.ai. And you can ask it, hey, how can I use turmeric? Give me some recipe ideas, or what nutrients are found in turmeric and how might those benefit my health or support my natural health? You can ask it questions like that and you'll get very good informative answers. So use our store, healthrangerstore.com, to acquire these products that give you outstanding nutrition, and use our AI engines at brighteon.ai to learn about how they benefit you and how you can use them. So thank you for your support. I'm Mike Adams, the Health Ranger. Take care.